Tell me a little bit about your mom and dad, Helen.
Okay, my father was a farmer. We lived on a farm near Fillmore, New York. My mother was a homemaker. She did have some of the time she had a job sometimes, but mainly she was a homemaker, took care of us kids.
Mm-hmm.
She helped on the farm. Before she was married, she was a teacher, one of those three-year preparation ones way back when, in a little rural schoolhouse.
Whereabouts?
Well, it was near Short Track in Fillmore, in that area.
Okay, okay.
So.
What brought your family to Fillmore, New York?
What brought them to Fillmore? Well, my father grew up in Fillmore, or he grew up in the house that we lived in.
Ah, okay.
I don't know why we were in that particular area of New York, but there were a lot of Cronks. It was just a family area. There's still a lot of Cronks in that area. So for some reason they settled there.
Tell me about the name Cronk, C-R-O-N-K.
That's right.
Does that emanate from where?
Well, it's either German or Dutch.
Okay.
My mother's name before she married was Sunleitner, and that was a German name.
Okay.
Her great-grandfather came from Germany, and her mother came from England. And I don't know that much about my father's history, but I think the name Cronk is in German, or I think at one time it was Cronkite. They took off the "ite" part.
Sure. Well, you can say you're related to Walter Cronkite.
That's right.
I like that. And so, growing up on a farm, which is what you did, right? You grew up on a farm?
Yes.
Did you have siblings?
No, I was an only child. My mother had 2 miscarriages.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 13, my parents adopted a brother and a sister. They also had foster children before that. So they did have, when I got older into going to school area time, we did have others in the family.
My God.
Other children.
Yeah, that kept you busy. I should have asked Helen. It's Helen Cronk for the camera, and your date of birth is?
4932.
Thank you. And we're in Fillmore, New York, and we're talking farm. What kind of farm was it?
A dairy farm.
Dairy farm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a small farm.
Did your dad do anything else in addition to farming?
Not when I was growing up.
Okay.
Eventually, he sold the farm, or he moved from the farm down to the town, and then he had a gas station.
Ah.
And which was just right for him, because he liked to talk, and he would talk to anybody and everybody. So.
Was he mechanically inclined? Was he?
No, not particularly.
Yeah.
But he liked animals, and he liked people.
You may have mentioned it, but again, for the camera, your dad's name was?
Burton.
Burton Cronk. And your mom's name was?
Alice.
Alice, thank you. And so you're in Fillmore, but at some point you find your way towards Kennedy, Faulkner area. How does that happen?
Well, I eventually went to college. I went to Houghton College, and I went twice. The second time I got a BA, and I wanted to teach someplace. So I ended up teaching in the Faulkner school system.
Okay.
Spent most of my time in Kennedy,
Okay.
in the Kennedy school, and I lived in Kennedy most of the time.
Fantastic. I must ask, because you're born 1932, do you remember December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor?
Well, I sort of remember there was a war. I remember the war. I don't remember that date particularly.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, when
Yeah.
the Japanese. Did it affect you on the farm at all? I mean, I realized farmers were exempt and got deferments.
Well, not seriously, but there were certain things that were rationed out that we couldn't get or were short of. But living on a farm, we had as much food as we wanted.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about that. One of the results of being of the war was that my uncle who had died had two girls, and his wife, it was during the war, she went to Buffalo to work, and she took the two of the girls. One lived with the grandma, and the other one lived with us. So for about a year or two, I had a cousin that lived in the house with us.
Ah.
And that was because of the war, and her mother was gone.
We find yourself from graduating from high school, Houghton College, teaching, and Faulkner school system.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been Kennedy Elementary School. Well, Kennedy, you were in Kennedy?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You lived there, and did you?
Yes.
Where did you actually teach, in Faulkner, or did?
Well, I taught in the Faulkner system,
Okay.
but most of the time it was at the Kennedy School.
And what was that grade? What are the grades there at the Kennedy School?
I taught third grade mostly.
You taught third, and was Kennedy just like from K through 8, or was it all the way?
When I was teaching, it was K through 6. For 4 years during that time, I wasn't at Kennedy, in the Kennedy School building. I was at C. Smith, and I had taught a class of for children with learning disabilities.
Okay.
And also they had a lot of emotional problems.
Yeah.
So that was I don't know if that was a special, it wasn't really a special good time, but although I sort of was drawn to some of those kids.
Yeah.
It was a small group, mostly boys, and they were from Frewsburg or Faulkner.
And C.E. Smith, I didn't even know about it till today. One of the earlier people I interviewed, her name is Alice Carlson, went there to C.E. Smith.
Uh-huh.
And that was on Willard Street Extension.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there it wasn't in the city, right? It was just...
No,
in,
it wasn't in the city. It was sort of in the outskirts of it.
yeah, yeah. And that was, what grade levels were that? Was it sort of K through 8?
No, in that school, well, when I went there was this learning disability class, and then there was a combined first and second, and a combined third and fourth.
Okay.
And then they went to Fenner, I guess, or to another school in the district.
Interesting.
Well, it's an apartment house now.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Small world. This is a small world. You said that in your bio that you just gave to me, your favorite music is country gospel, like the Gaither Brothers. your memorable experience was, well, country gospel. Was that something that you grew up on the farm where you just turned on the radio and that was what was being played?
No, well, I don't know, I just sort of liked that kind of music. I listened to Wheeling, West Virginia, I remember listening to, and that had the country western kind of music. And I've always liked that kind of music. With the guitars, and I don't like real fast music, but I like the mellow.
Do you like the steel guitars?
Oh, I love the steel. Yeah, that's a very pretty sound.
It is. And I think the radio station that started all that kind of, I don't want to say jamboree, but it's in Wheeling, West Virginia. It's still there.
Yeah.
Still there. I forget the name of it. Everybody here, everybody thinks of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, but really it was Wheeling, West Virginia where it started it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the country music, and it was country gospel.
Yeah, it wasn't all gospel. It was, they did play gospel, I guess.
Yeah, they play gospel. It's country music, but that's but it's still there.
Yeah, I haven't heard it because I don't listen to radio, but much.
And then you said your memorable experience was a trip you mentioned here.
Yeah, a trip to California.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, after I retired, I think, and I went to a seminar out in California for 2 weeks, and that was an interesting trip. First of all, to fly that far, and I went to Florida. I used to go to Florida frequently because my family was down there, but I hadn't gone as far as California.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was very courageous, and I rented a car, and I drove around on weekends when we were having classes, and saw different places. And it was something different, unusual, and I enjoyed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were some of the highlights of that trip?
Oh, I went to a couple of churches that I'd heard on the radio or television, and I remember going to graveyard and cemetery, a famous cemetery, and I don't remember particularly all what I did.
Did you go to that cathedral of glass? You know the.
Yeah.
Did you go there? That was amazing. We went there too with the kids.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. That was one of them that I went to. That was back when it was the original pastor.
I'm trying to draw up his name and I can't even do it right now.
Oh, what?
Very, very famous. He's on TV a lot.
Yeah. Now his son has a TV program. I'm not sure whether he is at the cathedral or not.
I think they sold the cathedral.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they just couldn't keep up with it. It was very expensive to keep up with.
Oh, it would be.
Yeah, but it's really spectacular. I mean, it's a looking thing.
Yep.
It's glass and glass.
Oh, I know. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you also talked about your conversion experience at about 8 years old.
Yeah, that was a spiritual.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with.
I am.
Okay.
Explain it to me. I mean, for the camera, you're 8 years old, and what church were you going to at the time?
At the time, I was going to a little Wesleyan Methodist church in Fillmore.
Mm-hmm.
What was unusual about that experience was that there were three of us, 3 kids, and we went out to the barn, and I don't know what we were talking about. Must have been something about the Lord's second coming or something of that sort. And the idea was that we better get ourselves right before he came. So we all separated and went into the barn. I went into what they call the feed bin. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was just a small place where the feed was kept. And it was there that I accepted the Lord. And he came into my life, and it was so very real. And I'm not one who has a lot of emotion with spiritual things, but I really did then. And it was, I knew that he had come into my life. And that was my what we call born again experience.
Right.
So since then I have been a born again Christian. Not always acting like one, but
occasionally we all come short.
Yes, right.
And so, what affiliation did you? Was it a Methodist?
Well, it was Wesleyan Methodist. Was a break off from the Methodist Church, and the break came in connection with the Civil War, and it somewhat had to do with the having slaves and like that, and also the Wesleyan Methodists, especially back then, were much stricter than the Methodists, which was good and which was bad. Depends. Some of the things we were strict on, I don't think really need to be.
Did you play cards?
No. We only played with Old Maid and Flinch, but not with playing cards.
See, I grew up as a Baptist, so I remember.
Oh, you know then.
So I can identify her. There was a bright red line.
Yep. Yep.
What they permitted and didn't permit. It didn't make any difference to us, but I remember. I get it.
Yeah.
And dancing.
Oh no, didn't dance. Those were some of the things that I don't think that the Lord cares about, whether we do it or don't.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't do any of those things, and Wesleyans didn't wear makeup, and Wesleyans didn't wear jewelry. You didn't go sleeveless. A lot of rigid rules.
Yeah, I can feel it. I lived it. And some of that religious experience and the orthodoxies you adopt. I could see that in your life, where you became a teacher and concerned with kids and special needs kids. And I think you mentioned here that you were a registered nurse?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
After I graduated from high school, I was going to work someplace. And I went to Craig Colony, which is no more, but it was a state hospital for people with epilepsy. And
where was it located?
It's located out near Mount Morris.
Okay.
And it's a prison now, of course.
Yeah.
So it's happened to all these. And I was going to get a job there. Well, I got talked into going to school instead. So I spent 3 years there learning to be a nurse. So I worked as an RN some of the time. I wouldn't have been able to I don't know if I'd been able to really go through college or not if I hadn't become an RN and been able to pay for some of my tuition and all.
Isn't it funny how you reflect back on career choices along the way, which one thing led to another, which led to another?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you hadn't taken that choice, you'd obviously a different path.
Yeah.
You've had a full life.
Well, I guess so. Not very exciting, but a lot of a lot of different things.
Had a full life, and been at Lutheran here for 11 years.
Yeah.
My golly.
Soon after it opened, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are very few employees still here that when I came.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the oldest one in Hulkwist or not. Oldest as far as being here.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask Susan. She's interested in all that stuff.
Oh.
Maybe you'll get an award.
Yeah.
Well, you get an award for being a good sport today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, and I love that sweater. That's great. I'm gonna, in fact, for the camera, I keep talking about it, but let me just pull it back. This is unbelievable, beautiful. Look at this. Fantastic. Very Christmassy.
Yeah.
Again, thanks so much, Helen.
You're welcome. Thank you.